Claude Code has become one of the most powerful AI tools for code generation. In this video, we're going to see how we can incorporate Content Island into the Claude Code workflow. For example, let's imagine we want to develop a simple portal for a local real estate agency. What we're going to implement is a navigation bar with links to different sections of the portal, a hero section where we add the agency's name, the main actions, and a featured properties section where the most relevant properties are shown. And when we click on a featured property, a page is shown with the details of that property, including photos, price, description, and so on. We have this information modeled in our Content Island project. If we go to the Model tab, here we can see all the entities that make up the project. If, for example, we go to Property, here we have all the fields that make up a property for sale or rent. We've also modeled a Hero section. Here we have the calls to action, the background image, and so on. As for data, we can go to the Content tab and then to the Tree view, and in Properties. We can see the details of a property. We can see the name, the slug. If we have an internal reference to identify it, a description, a long description, the city area, the property type, the square meters, and so on. Before we start with the Cloud Terminal, we're going to start from a blank template. To do that, we can use the Content Island minimal template. An easy way to install it is to go to Add Project, give it a project name, for example, Real Estate. Choose a suitable template from the options, and then click Next. And from here, we choose the minimal Astro template. We go down, click Complete, and simply copy and paste the command to create the project into your terminal. Now I'm moving to Visual Studio Code. Here I have Visual Studio Code open in an empty folder, and I paste the command I copied earlier. I run it, and the Content Island CLI is going to ask me a series of questions. The first one is where it wants to install the project. Since I'm in an empty folder, I can tell it to create it in that folder. To do that, I put a period. In case you wanted to create a subfolder, you just have to type the subfolder name and hit Enter. The next question is going to ask if we want to install our dependencies, that is, to run an npm install for us. We'll say yes. And now we have everything ready to start the project. Let's type npm run dev. We copy the URL, localhost 4321. We move to a browser and paste it. And here we can see that we have everything working. It's all perfect. Now we're going to delete the example code, the greeting pod, and its use on the main page. And we're going to change the Content Island project token. For the Real Estate Project 1, we go to Visual Studio, inside the src folder, pods, greeting, and we delete it. We click Delete and we say yes. Now let's go to the page where it's being used. In Pages Index Astro, we delete the import. We delete the component. I'm going to Content Island. Here I have my real estate project open. I move to the General tab, copy the token, go back to Visual Studio Code, and open the .env file. And I replace the Content Island token with a new one from our real estate project. Now let's make sure that this is still working. Here we have it. For now, it only shows us a blank page because we haven't added any data yet. In the next step, we're going to configure the project so that Claude can use tools and NCPs to work better. Content Island exposes an MCP that allows Claude Code to access the data we have in Content Island. We're going to set up this MCP in our project. To do this, we have to provide the real estate project token and run the following command in the terminal. Let's open a new one. And we'd have to run something like this command. Alright, we're installing the Content Island MCP, and key thing here, just drop in your project's API token, the one we want to interact with. We have two ways to do it. Optional, we go to our .env, and we copy it. Or, as we did before, we can go to our Content Island project and copy the token directly from here, however we prefer. We have it copied now, and we'll replace it here. Now we copy this command and paste it into the terminal. And here you can see how Claude tells us that the MCP server has been added to the project. And if we open the mcp.json file, we can see it here, that it's added our configuration and even our token. To check that it was added correctly, we paste the command Claude MCP get content island. And here we can see that it has connected successfully. Next step, we're also going to give Claude guidance on how we want it to generate the code. To do this, we use skills, which are ways to tell Claude that it has a set of specialized instructions available to perform specific tasks. We're going to define several skills. The first one will be so it learns how to interact with the Content Island Client API. If we go to the Content Island documentation under the AI section, we can find the Client API skill. If we click on it, we can see here a link that takes us to the skill itself. We click it, and here we can see it. We just have to click on Raw and copy it. Now we come to Visual Studio Code, which is our code editor, and in the root directory of our project, we are going to create a brand new folder called Skills. Inside, we create another new folder that is named Content Island. We create it. And inside of it, we create a file, which we will call skill.md. And that's the file we'll be working with. And here we paste the content of the Content Island skills. Another interesting skill is the one that explains to Claude how to work following the pods architecture to better structure the project. The pod structure or architecture comes from a proposal that was made in the Ember framework. If you want to know more about how it works, you can find it in this post. We go back to the Content Island documentation, click on the skill, and click on Raw again. Copy the content, and go back to Visual Studio Code. And under Skills, I'm going to create a new folder. That will be called Astropods. And inside that folder, I'm going to create a new file called skill, remember in all caps, .md. and I paste the content I copied earlier. Finally, we're going to add a skill for Claude to improve its front-end design capabilities. We'll install this from Claude's Skills Marketplace, specifically the front-end design skill from Anthropic. How do you install it? Let's start Claude here. We approve the request and grant permission to use those MCPs. And now, in case we don't have it already, we're going to add the Anthropic skill repository from the marketplace. We come here and run the following command. We use the plugin and have it add that skill. Hit enter. And it's been added successfully. The next step. We're going to install the front-end design skill from Anthropic, and for that, we paste the following command and run it. And we're going to tell it to install it for all collaborators in this repository. Once it's completely finished, we stop Claude and then we start it up again fresh, just to make sure everything is working properly. If we go to the Claude folder now, and here in settings.json, we can see that we already have this plugin enabled. We're also going to define a configuration file called claude.md and put it inside the .claude folder. And here we provide a set of general instructions for Claude to keep in mind when generating code. For example, specifying that it should use TypeScript or Tailwind for the styling. We'll be adding the most important things here. It's also not a good idea to write a novel, otherwise we'd overload Claude's context, and it could use too many tokens. We go to the Claude folder and add a new file that's going to be called claude.md. And now we're going to go ahead and paste the following content right here, just what we need. Something that, for example, uses Tailwind and DaisyUI. Use HTML5 elements. Go for mobile design first. Use Astro to structure the code base. Use Content Island skills to pull in that content from Content Island. We're going to create a Git repository to evaluate, accept changes, and discard what we don't like. And now we're going to add the current snapshot of the project. For this, we can open a new terminal and run git init. Git add dot to add all the files to the stage. And we generate the commit. We do a git commit -m. We give it the message initial codebase commit and commit. And now our commit is done. Let's do something else. Let's clear this. Let's start adding some things. First, we tell it, hey, the project you're in is built with Astro and has access to the Content Island API, where you have a local real estate agency modeled, with information about the navigation menu, a hero section, and a list of properties, among other things. Now let's tell it how to start with the initial structure. I'm telling it to create a layout with a header and a footer. In the header, it can create a top navigation bar with the link specified in the Content Island project. Specifically, in the header I have right here. If we go to header, we can see the different fields. We have the company name, rent, and get in touch. To see it more clearly, if we go to content, here in header, we can go to home, for example. Let's look at the content. Here, for example, we can see the home tag and that it navigates to the root. Back to the prompt, and we tell it to use the include related content flag to pull all the information related to each link. We could have probably summarized this a bit more. And Claude Code itself might have realized that it needed the include related content flag to fetch the detailed info for each link. But here we've decided to write it out. Next, we indicate that below the header on the main page, add a hero section, and it'll read the data from the content island type. If we look at the model here, we have the hero model with its various fields. If we go to content, then hero. Here we also have the buy and sell calls to action. We also have social media if we wanted it. And very importantly, the background image for that section. Back to Visual Studio Code, and here are the rest of the instructions for that hero. We tell it to pull the background image, and it has the main actions, buy and rent, which it can set as buttons. And as a final step for this iteration, we'll tell it to use the frontend design skill for the design, and to access the content island data, use the skill. That's been defined for the Content Island Client API. And to structure the project, use the Content Island Astro pod skill. There might be some redundant entries here where we could have saved some tokens, but let's see how it works. We could have also specified some corporate branding, colors, and so on. We're going to leave all that to the expertise of our front-end design skill. Let's go back to where we have Claude, and we'll copy and paste. And very importantly, before hitting enter, using Shift-Tab, we tell it to make a plan for us. We run it and wait for it to finish generating our plan. As you can see, if it has doubts, it asks us, we say yes and tell it not to ask again. We have the plan here now, we can review it. If we go to the very top, we can see that in context it'll build the project structure, install dependencies, and set up the styling, configuring both Tailwind and Daisy. Here we see it'll create the different pods like the header and footer. The hero, then it'll also create the layout theme, and here we can see the header styling and the full plan. Now we're going to choose option 1 and tell it to go ahead, and we'll see that it's already getting to work here. And it starts implementing. We'll see that in the Git section, they'll start appearing new files and modifications. And then we'll have to check how all the files it modified turned out. Once it's finished, we'll go to our application now and see how everything turned out. It's finished now, let's see how it looks. This is the page it generated for us. As you can see, it looks good. It generated the header just like we told it to. It also generated the hero section with the buy and rent buttons. As you can see on the interface, the Instagram button has now been added. We didn't ask for it, but if we wanted to, we could delete it. And on the other hand, here we have the footer. The next thing we're going to do would be is to show the list of properties that will be featured by us. That is, the apartments, the houses, right? That we've decided to feature on the main page. So let's get to it. We're going to delete the prompt we had and paste the new one. We could have just given it directly to Claude, but we decided to paste it here to explain what we're doing. What we're saying here is, hey, I want to show a featured properties section right below the hero section. And for that, you have to read the property list from the Content Island project and show only the ones that have the featured flag for each featured property and have it show us its main image, the title, the price, and whether it's for sale or rent. And a link to the detail page for that property. Here we stop and request the creation of the detail page, but for now it should only render a placeholder text stating that the detail page will be implemented in the next step. We're going to go ahead and copy this prompt and then give it to Claude. But before we do that, if you want, let's go ahead and do a commit first. Main part generated. And now that we have it, well, let's run it. In this case, we haven't told it to make a plan, but to just generate it directly. It's finished. Let's go to the browser. Let's do a refresh to see if the changes have been updated. Let's scroll down. We see the new content it has generated. As you can see, it looks really good. And if we go to the details, right now, as we told it, we only told it to put some text, which will be the next step we're going to do now. Now we're going to instruct Claude so it can generate the details page. We select the prompt from before, copy and paste the new one. We have it right here, and all we tell it is to generate the property details page where we instruct it to show all the property information, including an image carousel, the description, the price, and a contact form. To see it, let's go to Content Island. Here we can see if we go to Property, that it has a lot of fields. If we go to Content and choose any property, for example, this first one, we see there that it has a lot of fields, description, the area where it is, the bedrooms, the bathrooms. And if we go down, we can even see here, as we said, an image carousel, as we mentioned, and even the extra features that this property has. Let's copy the prompt and drop it right into Claude, and then we tell it to go ahead and generate it for us. It's finished. Let's see how it turned out. Let's go inside a property. And here it has generated it. As you can see, it turned out great. Here we can see all the details. The description, the additional features, that is, the extra characteristics it has, the price, and even the contact form we told it to add. Honestly, it looks really good how it turned out. Here you can see the image carousel it also created for us. We can change images here. It really turned out great. And with this, we've seen that integrating a project you've created in Content Island with Claude Code is really simple.